Boys, have you ever wanted to see two grown men complain about a children's card game and the archaicy of Floodgates? Well, if you just want to hear me and Vlad ramble about Floodgates, whether or not they're healthy or not, and watch some response videos made in response to my Floodgate video from a couple weeks back, this is the perfect video for you. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you guys want to see more of in the future. And yeah, enjoy the video.
Start defending Floodgates. There's the video.
Yeah, let's go. I saw like a snippet of this when this first came out. Like, I think it's like not terrible. The keyword is thick.
I think I watched like the first 10 seconds like I do every Sebto video.
Yo, gotta give him that watch time.
This discussion
Seb is just so British.
For positive combo-based decks that in their era played uninteractive, not fun Floodgates because of how powerful and generic they were.
Yes, true. There's no arguing that.
Yep.
It is objectively true. Floodgate good, everyone play it.
So there's some examples of when combo decks played it specifically for the mirror match or for combo-dominated format doesn't really make a strong point against their design here, as they are working fully as intended.
What the fuck? I think Seb's saying like, yes, that is the point of Floodgates, to be unfun and to stop combo, but that's still not fun. You look at IO, like IO's not designed to stop monster effects.
That shit was so fucking lame because I played Pendulum.
Bro, trust me, Endymion isn't a bad deck.
Motherfuckers anti-spelled me, and I'm like, damn, I chose the wrong event to play pure Endymion after Electromite got banned, huh?
That's why you normal summon Purple Poison, dude.
I kinda agree, like, yes, when combo deck play Floodgate and go first, that shit was just winning without the Floodgate anyway. It just sealed the deal. Like, in that case, like, it doesn't really, like, it doesn't change that much. Like, bro, that could just be fucking Judgment. Like it could just be Judgment, like,
yeah,
in that
Judgment,
scenario.
it could be a pointer, like, it doesn't matter. If it's anything, like, you're probably losing.
Shockmaster, as degenerate as it was, you, like, hardly made it. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Was so shit back then, you know? Like, okay, not shit, but, like, the decks were really bad back then, you know? They weren't, like, the hyper-consistent decks as they are now. So there was Yu-Gi-Oh! Karakuri deck in the Dragon Ruler format, but, like, a weird, like, you know, like, an exception, you know? Like, that wasn't really, like, a common deck. Because, like, the thing with Shockmaster was, like, the only deck that played it was, like, the only deck that played it effectively was Wind Up, and it hardly made it unless it made, like, it went, like, Magician Shark. And if it opened Magician Shark, it was just winning anyway.
Yeah, you were getting hand Looper 5,
you know?
like, it was over. Like, you weren't winning that anyways.
And even then, Shockmaster wasn't, like, game winning. Because, like, you could just go, like, set a dude, set some traps, pass. And then you have, like, a Fiendish Chain or whatever for Shockmaster, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like that. Or, like, they go Shockmaster, call monsters, and they go Smashing Ground, kill your Shockmaster, and they set some traps. Like,
yeah,
that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was
it didn't
back
really
then.
matter.
like Shockmaster was, like, whatever back then, you know? But, like, now, where, like, every deck nowadays does hyper-consistent combo-y, wombo-y bullshit, something like Shockmaster is a lot more impactful because the game has changed, you know?
Exactly.
Like the context matters when we're talking about cards like this.
A few Floodgates being purely balanced does not mean Floodgates as a whole are bad.
Vlad, what are your thoughts on just Floodgates as a whole? Do you think they're bad, or do you think they're good? Or,
I think they're necessary.
like, why?
How else are new players meant to win?
Outside of that reason.
I think, in general, they're extremely toxic, but I think, given the current climate of Yu-Gi-Oh!, they are the smallest problem in the grand scheme of things.
I think they're like in the current metagame, they're like definitely like they're somewhere in the top 5, but it's not like a big priority. Like, they're somewhere like in 5th place.
There's a problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! At its core that made it the white. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, completely different game than it was a year ago. And that game was different than the year before that. And it kind of just keeps doing this thing where the game kind of resets and kind of goes back to the same boiling point, where format becomes like kind of, you know, a kind of diverse mid-rangey format where every deck's kind of doing some fair stuff and nothing's like a bit too oppressive, and like everything's kind of fine and dandy.
Yep.
Floodgates are kind of prevalent, but they're never really game winning. And then you have the bad formats,
Yeah,
which is every couple of years or every couple of formats where it's just like Buster Lock with Union Carrier, Scythe Lock with DPE.
It's so fun.
Cards that you have to answer with hand traps, or else it makes it so that your one hand trap can't be negated because of the entire venture engine, making it so that you make an early Barone or you have a Griffin on board, so your prank it combo always resolves without fail, even if you have Nibiru. It's like, okay, cool, it's really epic.
What a good game. what a good game design.
Yeah, and I think the game in general has just become, it's a point of no return where every deck is super hyper consistent, which I don't think is particularly a bad thing. But the problem with that is it's hyper consistent combo-y wombo-y stuff. I think the existence of Floodgates kind of helps. Like, I'm reluctantly saying this, obviously. Like how Floodgates kind of help mend the problem for players that are maybe, you know, not playing a meta deck, or like, you know, playing like a more casual deck. You can play like, you know, Rivaling goes into beat like Brave decks, but even then Draco back answers it, so it's like kind of toxic. Every deck archetype is meant to have a clear strength and weakness. Combo decks are meant to have very little utility when it comes to dealing with like trap cards, and they're only really good at dealing with strategies that kind of, you know, are based around monsters. Then you have like mid-range decks where they have the utility, but they don't have as big of a ceiling as combo decks. And then the control decks are basically all utility cards with very, in general, weak engines, loaded to floor type decks that play like, you know, most of the time non-searchable like cards like the Solemn Strike and Torrential Tribute or what have you, just because they have the space to do these, and their like core game plan kind of synergizes with the fact, you know, something like Eldritch, where it's like, okay, well, I've got these cards that deal with face-up cards and cards in the graveyard, and then, you know, this can kind of work with other trap cards because Eldritch can summon itself from the graveyard by like dumping a spell or traps. You can get rid of spells and traps you don't need, and it's set.
The main problem I have with that is new players will sort of like really start to just completely rely on those auto win buttons. Like, they won't play any other deck unless they could just have like a super simple instant I win button. And then like when those decks just prove to be like complete dog shit, like True Draco after like Diagram got hit to 1, or and like Card of Demise, like they just, there's very much like a divide where they will just straight up quit the game, or they will like be forced to learn like a real deck. And that happened to me. That literally happened to like me and my friend. Like we both used to play like super like brain rot decks. Like we played True Draco, and like my friend quit, but like I just learned Scrap Spiral. I just really don't like Konami having to design cards with that idea in mind.
I think cards made to specifically fuck combo are based. That is
Yeah,
my opinion.
Fuck combo. I hate combo.
Like I said, for combo decks having most of the time a clear flaw, which is having very little utility, I think that's where Floodgates balance out this like clear flaw in some combo decks, you know? Where it's like, okay, well, combo deck can't deal with purple continuous card because it doesn't have utility to do so. It only can do this one thing, which is combo off. Probably should design cards that take advantage of this to make it so that this deck has a very clear flaw. That is my take. Fuck combo decks.
Yeah, dude, I fucking hate combo decks. I just want to go back to the good old days where I could just set True Draco, Apocalypse, and pass. And Herald of Ultimatus. These are all extremely oppressive cards that also shut down players' plays, but whenever I see these two camps of Monster Floodgates versus Trap Floodgates arguing with each other on Twitter, it really gets frustrating to me for why they both can't just agree that, hey, maybe these cards and design thematics are just very silly overall. Everyone was like complaining about Appaloosa isn't a Floodgate, Herald isn't a Floodgate. Have you read these fucking cards?
Dog. Right. They kind of read like they're not Floodgates, but they are just Floodgates in disguise. I think, I agree. I think Apollo is one of the most degenerate cards I've ever printed of all time. There is, so you know how I talked about like modern Yu-Gi-Oh versus like old Yu-Gi-Oh? The divide when that happens is when Apollo is printed. I'm not joking. Yu-Gi-Oh has become shit ever since that card was in the game. Because if you look at every deck after Apollo came out, every single deck was degenerate.
Back then, you sort of had to play around hand traps, but now it's like every deck you just always have to be terrified of just this stupid ass fucking Apollo, just like ruining your day.
I think it's like not even just like Apollo, because like I think if it was just Apollo, I wouldn't really be complaining here. But the problem is that like they printed Apollo, then they printed IP, then like Seyfert. And then, you know, they kind of pushed the bar a little. They kind of kept being like, oh, like, what if we expanded on this idea, right? And they just kept printing shit like that, and it was kind of cringe.
A card like True King for Calamities, or shortened to VFD, would just win on its own because it's a 3000 attack body as well as being a very strong Floodgate. Spell and Trap Floodgates, on the other hand, are naturally less oppressive and better card design because they can never win a game on its own. Just to quickly cover some bases here for...
Yes, they can! They can entirely win a game on their own! Have you read Mystic Mind, Seb?
Oh, okay, that is the only exception to this, Stevie, though.
That's valid,
like,
but...
Okay, so... Floodgate, like, if you just flip a Floodgate, that doesn't really win you the game. You have to do something on top of the Floodgate. I can't explain to you how many times... Okay, look, obviously anecdotal evidence. Because this doesn't happen every single time, obviously. But there's been so many times where I just go... I play against, like, some deck that, like, doesn't draw, like, engine. It just draws trap cards because that's the fucking nature of these shitty decks. And it's like, okay, Floodgate. It's like, okay, attack for fucking, I'll dome you for 19 and pass. Like, okay, draw a pass, because the deck's shit. Okay, draw for turn. Summon a dude, dome you for like 4k, pass. And they're like, draw, pass. And it's like, okay, draw, attack for game, cool. Like, yeah, sure, I can't do my combo, but like, bro, most of the time, these decks fucking don't draw playable either.
That's...
Like, yes, obviously, that's a very few and far between, but Floodgate didn't instantly win them the game there. They had to do something on top of the Floodgate.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong about like you have to be like doing something on top of the Floodgate, but when you
obviously,
look at, like, when you sort of
obviously most of the time you're gonna be fucking winning when you have the Floodgate because you're gonna have like a Floodgate and like something else on top of that, right? But it's not like every single time. Whereas with monster Floodgates, it's a lot different because it's a Floodgate attached to a value, you know? It's like a lot different because it kind of fills
it's a
the
Floodgate
role of what you need. Yeah, because like that's why like just trap Floodgates suck because it's like it's like one half of the puzzle, right? You need Floodgate plus dude, whereas monster Floodgate is monster and also Floodgate. It's just like best of both worlds, and it's from your extra deck, so it's fantastic. You don't have to draw it.
I love it. But like the biggest argument against just like is sort of just like the idea that modern trap deck design is getting more and more focused around. You can play Floodgates, and if you draw the trap cards, those are also still like a win con. Like you have like Eldish, you have Labyrinth, which is coming out. You have technically Altergeist, but Altergeist isn't really real. But you can sort of get the idea of Konami is very much pushing to like amend this issue with like Floodgates, with just monsters or archetypes built around. Yes, I resolved Floodgate, and like I resolved another trap card. So that means that I also get my monster half of the deck.
It's kind of weird because you listed like Labyrinth and Eld, but they are like very different decks. Because like you need to draw like a monster and a dude to do anything.
No, because you kind of have like the trap cards. Like they all just basically serve as like monster searchers. Like every single Eldritch card is basically just a monster.
Okay, but that's why I was saying like specifically like Labyrinth and like Altergeist, because those are quite different than a deck like Eldritch. Eldritch is like the exception where it's like the traps are also monsters. Because in Altergeist, for example, the traps aren't monsters and the monsters aren't traps, you know? Except Mario. But like Mario doesn't serve any purpose because Mario is just a trap. It's not a monster and a trap. You need to still draw like Faker plus a trap to be able to play the game.
I'm talking about like in the case of just like stuff like personal spoofing plus like any Altergeist
card.
Sure. Stuff like the Labyrinth card. Like there's a Labyrinth trap that just summons the main mommy from the deck. It's just like stuff. It's just like designed like that is just getting more and more pushed in my opinion. That's sort of like amending the issue of just like a deck like Subterra where unless you draw a field spell or literally Guru, like you're basically fucked.
Yeah.
Back to video. Seb, what do you got?
Just because there are some weak monster Floodgates does not mean as a whole monster-based Floodgates are worse game designed than spell trap Floodgates.
Yes, MST. I don't super understand that argument.
Okay, so I think there needs to be a long. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep this as fucking short. I'm so sorry for fucking tangenting.
No, this is free content. Think of the
There has to be a huge disconnect between monster Floodgates and extra deck monster Floodgates. Very different things. Main deck monster Floodgates, all trash. All fucking unplayable. Barrier Statue, I fucking sleep. Inspector Border, worst card ever printed. Fucking Pachycephalos, get the fuck out of this Pachycephalos dick, you know? Like, but like, dude, Apollo, VFD, eat my ass. Like, some of those broken cards ever printed. Like,
yeah.
Because you don't have to draw them, you know? You can access them at any time. Monster Floodgates are usually like, okay, I summon Monster Floodgate and now I pass my turn. There's very rare scenarios where that's not the case, you know? Where you have, some more Glink, summon Barrier Statue in the end phase. Or you have Union Carrier attach Buster Well, but that's different because it's basically just an extra monster accessing this Floodgate. If you'll notice, when I kept, said like, oh, well, these monster Floodgates suck unless, an extra deck monster's involved. It's like, okay, cool. Maybe there's kind of a problem here with the extra deck. They keep fucking printing cards to do this shit.
Yeah. Like,
anyway, monster Floodgates suck. Extra deck monster Floodgates are degenerate and shouldn't exist.
Like main deck monster Floodgates. I literally draw Smashing Ground. I win the game. But
it's like monster Floodgates are the same as spell and trap Floodgates, except they're just different colors.
10 times worse.
However, let's take some deck building math into account. Statistically, at a 40
everyone got, dude. Everyone got mad at me because I was like, oh, I run 6 normals. Like, in a deck, you run 6 normals. Like, everyone was like, well, actually, you have to play X amount of starters. You have to play X amount of whatever. You actually play Y. And I'm like, bro, it's a for fucking sake of example. Like, everyone got fucking pissed about me for this fucking...
Bro, actually, in my Prankheads deck, I play 15 Prankheads.
I play 15 starters, so actually, I'm more likely to draw the out, and your math is wrong, and you're going to hell.
Yeah.
But you'll see.
Also, and also you had a minor spelling mistake, so I win.
Minor spelling mistake. Hand over your cock. Either way, 36% chance to auto lose the game. It's not amazing.
So this argument that it's unlikely you see both a starter and an out is just wrong, since if you build your deck right, you always draw your starter alongside your out.
Copium! If I always build my deck right, I will always draw my starter. You will always do so.
Yes. Of course, if you deck build around beating a Floodgate, you will probably beat the Floodgate. But then you will also lose every other round because you are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And not Draw the Out Simulator. Oh man, we're finally 4.5 minutes into the video and it's only taken us fucking an hour.
Let's go!
If you lost your Floodgate, you only spent like 10 minutes at most, and then you can move on to the next game. The same if you lost your heavy combo deck. You do not and are not entitled to win at—
No, I fucking hate that agreement. There's a saying. Okay, I have like 2 disagreements, and it's one. Well, one is like the idea that Master Duel is like designed for casual audiences. That's just like objectively true. Like you cannot deny. Like look at the game. It's just like.
Yep.
But the main issue is that I find like this is very much a game where there is still a heavy emphasis on the competitive aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a difference between like Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's World Championship being a game for casuals versus like Master Duel being a game for casuals.
I agree and also disagree. Yes, they are trying to kind of make this competitive, but we have to kind of see where that goes. Once again, we don't know what the fuck they're gonna do with Master Duel. They haven't updated this fucking game in so long. Obviously, they're, but we had the new solo gates and shit, but that's not really like...
That's not content.
That's not really content. That's just content. What? I think for Master Duel's very casual ladder, where it's not really like high stakes or anything, fucking Plat 1's a joke. I can get Plat 1 with my fucking... I can teach my grandma how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And she'd probably get Plat 1. She found out how to use TikTok and WhatsApp. Like, she's just going place. For Master Duel's sake, as it is right now, I think it's perfectly fine to have best of 1. And I think it's like, what... Like, if you lose to a Floodgate deck, whatever the fuck, man. Like, if you start playing like a bunch of like people who are playing Floodgate decks, that's when kind of like a meta develops, right? Where it's like, okay, well, if everybody's playing Floodgate decks, then I will just play a bunch of macro removal, and then you just instantly beat those decks, and then it's like, okay, well, then those decks become unplayable, so we're gonna start playing decks that don't lose to Twin Twisters, and then, okay, well, maybe I should stop playing Twin Twisters in my deck, and I should probably start, maybe play something that like deals with these other decks that aren't losing to Twin Twisters. And then we do the game of catch, where it's like, okay, well, now I should probably play a deck that, I will be my play my Eldritch deck with
2 Twin Twister. I will play 1 Regeki. I will play Droplet.
And then I think that's a fun part of Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like, okay, well, I keep playing against okay, so but the problem with that is that like that would make sense if Yu-Gi-Oh had a very competitive ladder where you're playing against like the same people all the time. Whereas with this, it's like, okay, you could be playing as fucking anyone playing anything, because there's so many fucking Yu-Gi-Oh cards and there's so many different strategies available. But also at the same time, like, and then it makes it so it's kind of hard to metagame around that because there's just so many decks, so you can't realistically be expected to play like, okay, I'll play Twin Twisters in my deck, and it's like, okay, cool, I've played against Adam Emancipator. I will now, I lose because I've drawn Twin Twisters, and that just feels bad,
Yeah.
So it's like, I can kind of agree where it's like, okay, well, like, it doesn't really matter because Master Duel is kind of just fucking casual at the moment. And it's not that deep, it's like, just have some fun. Obviously kind of hard when you get floodgated, but click the surrender button and just go again. Like, it fucking barely makes a fucking impact on you anyway.
Also the second thing about, like, the surrender button, that is, like, one of the biggest, like, things I hate, because, It's not the idea that like losing against a stupid Floodgate or losing against like some stupid high roll deck means that you're wasting 10 minutes of your life. It means you're wasting 30 minutes of your life because you lose 10
You have to
minutes,
win again, yeah.
You lose 10 minutes losing to the stupid deck. You lose another 10 minutes having to make up the deficit, and then you lose another 10 minutes trying to come out with a 66% overall win rate to get those ladder points. And I'm just like, no, I hate losing a high roll. I hate it. You don't lose 10 minutes, lose 30 minutes.
That's incredibly fair, but also at the same time, have you considered crying about it?
I am. I am literally crying and shitting.
Oh, you literally
as we
are
speak.
crying about it, yeah. You're literally crying, shitting, and coming at the same time right now.
Exactly. Catch my OnlyFans. Coming out April 1st. Oh my god, it's almost April 1st. Wait a minute. In general, relatively to many combo decks are simply better than those reliant on decks with combos while under a floodgate.
So there seems to be some sort of assumption that the moment you're in a favorable position, you automatically win the game. This is not
That is
true.
true. That is like true. If you're winning the game, you're winning the game, Seb. That is how Yu-Gi-Oh works.
You still have to play it well.
That is true.
Misplays can still cost you the game.
But like with a trap deck, like you can't really misplay with Eldritch.
No, you can definitely misplay with like you have to know what to negate. Bro, sometimes people just negate the wrong shit and you win.
No, I'm talking about like in the same, like I mean, like I'm talking about in the scenario where like you're in a favorable position with a floodgate.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to lose from that position, but it's like not like impossible.
Yeah, I'm not saying like it's
It depends on what deck you're
impossible.
playing for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying like it's impossible. It like always depends on the flood game, whether your opponent's playing, and blah 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 blah. But there's obviously like if you're in a favorable position with a floodgate, if Eldritch is sitting on like summon limit goes in, and like they basically got their engine up, like it's kind of impossible to lose from.
Yeah. There is a point of no return for sure.
Yeah, like it's very different from like Subterror with like a strike, a Fiendus, and like maybe a pop. Like that's very completely different.
But it kind of depends on
Well,
both ends of the spectrum. Like sometimes you can int into like a trap deck and you lost because you misplayed into the deck, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes these situations could have been avoided, etc., etc.
We also have to consider that because they aren't typically great at pushing and applying pressure, that it's not actually hard to stall out their attacks and extend the length of the game, which gives you more turns to draw cards like Return the Tide or draw a straight up out.
Agree?
Like again, this kind of brings us back to like the earlier issue that we were talking about just like trap decks are becoming more and more focused. Like trap decks are beginning.
Yeah,
to
modern trap decks have gone a lot better for sure.
like this, like that's like not an incorrect point, but it's just like it's slowly becoming more and more outdated. And,
But
like, trap
it's just
decks
it is just a problem with Yu-Gi-Oh, yes.
Yep, Yu-Gi-Oh cringe, bad game. Why do we play it?
But the majority of the time, you're playing against someone who doesn't know better play than set White Stone of Legends and Pass.
True!
This again leads to the misconception that
Master Duel Master Duel sucks!
And not as a sign so
Finally, we all fucking agreed on
something.
something.
Because the floodgate was good enough against most of the top decks.
No. Losses was only good against Striker.
Yo, Losses was broken! What do you mean?
It was not good against any other deck. It was unplayable into like every other deck. It was like okay against the Thunder Mirror. It was broken against Striker. And even then, I can't remember a time where I've played Striker and I've lost to Thunder Dragon. Like,
Bro, just draw the Wind Waker! This just goes.
dude, it's not
normal
even
way.
that. That deck just didn't do anything. That deck couldn't out-ray. Like,
Okay.
how hard it was to
Just
fucking
because
outrate
Thunder
Thunder
Dragon
Dragon?
was
That
like
shit was
the worst
impossible.
deck of all time, dude.
Yeah,
It's sort of
Pure
just-
Thunder sucked. Danger Thunder, however, very different.
Okay, dude, Danger Thunder Dragon Link, that deck was based as fuck. Oh my god, I love that deck.
Yeah. That was
But
just the
I'm-
best deck of the format.
It was the best deck of the format that nobody could afford. So everyone
Nobody
just
fucking
pretended
played.
it wasn't. Nobody could. So just everyone
Yeah.
pretended it wasn't real. I think like there were parts of Seb's video that were like objectively.
I think there's
like,
some truth to it.
Yeah, there's like objectively a lot of truth to it. Like a good amount of truth to it. Like nothing was like completely ignorant. Like some parts were nitpicky, some parts I disagreed with, but like there was like nothing was like objectively wrong about it.
I agree.
Now let's watch the other one. This guy kind of looks like Asmongold.
He's Asmongold, but with like with a normal hairline.
True. This sucks.
I recently got sent this video by a friend, and I think it's just bad. Stevie is trying to argue against floodgates, but fails miserably. He uses wrong maths, flawed logic, and forgets midway that there are floodgates that are not back row. This is a defense of floodgates, but I'm not saying that all floodgates are healthy for the game.
I mentioned VFD multiple times in the video. I mentioned
Damn.
VFD multiple times in the video.
You won't draw the out and be able to set up your board in the same turn. My argument against
I don't think I ever made that point.
Yeah.
I just said it's unlikely.
Yeah, I don't. What? Is this
Okay.
guy just? Man's just putting words in your mouth. I don't know. I just haven't also watched your video in full, so.
this is that his
Yeah.
criticism applies not only to floodgates. You have to break every board. It doesn't matter if you need to draw an MST against a set judgment or a summon limit. Negating
What?
a combo starter can be way more devastating
What
than a
the
floodgate.
fuck is he
If you
talking
can't break
about?
boards, then you're just
I mean, yeah, I do think combo's fucking degenerate, but this is like a completely different beast.
This is like a completely different argument.
No one ever said that combo was good. I think everybody universally agrees that the big Wombo combo decks are not very good
Yeah,
for the
Wombo
game.
combo decks are like 100 times worse than like a stupid fucking summon limit.
There's good reason why control decks have won big tournaments.
Control decks have historically won multiple tournaments. Have you not played Sky Striker ever?
3 Cosmic, 3 Twin, 3 even your Lightning Storm. The chances of
Yes, I am putting 9 cards into my side deck just to beat back row.
Yeah, ain't nobody got fucking space for that.
Nobody got space for fucking 3, dude. I'm trying to put him
Bro,
to
I barely got
gas.
space for like 3 twin, let alone
Yeah.
3 twin to evenly Lightning Storm. That's like a metagame edge you can get if you play a backrow deck, but still.
Or somebody used Gozen match against me when I was playing with Dolce. Cool Floodgate.
Damn, that's crazy. Against a deck-specific thing does unique things, so then it's fine because my deck can play through it. Oh yeah, that's like the same as me saying, oh yeah, my Eldritch opponent flipped Skull Drain, but little did he know I was also playing Eldritch. Haha.
Yeah, it's
Like, what
fair, right?
What the fuck does that mean? It's like, oh yes, this card is not good into my particular deck. That's not really like, it's not really an argument, dude.
First it was, you will never draw one of these 3 cards you need. Now your opponent is in all likelihood drawing a Golden Land
Yeah,
Forever
no, that's
or a Solemn Judgment.
I agree. That's kind of a shit argument, Stevie.
Bro, what do you mean? They could just search Golden Land.
Dude, nobody fucking plays Golden Land Forever. That shit sucks.
Shitters and Master Duel play Golden Land.
Cry.
I am literally crying.
Oh no, my opponent had card. Oh no. Like, bro, that's like saying, like, oh no, my opponent had fucking Ash Blossom for my Lone Fire Blossom. Like, bro, what the fuck are you saying? Like,
Bro,
dude.
I can't beat that. I'm trying to summon the plant mommy. Like I got ashed. What can I do?
Well, let's talk about the absolutes, and the absolutes are you're an absolute little bitch. That's what I'm saying, Stevie.
And if he does, chances are high that you open multiple removal pieces. Baiting a negate is as good as negating a
this is
negate.
just what it
Also,
is.
let's focus on Monster Floodgates first.
Okay, what do you mean? It's a high chance that you drew another fucking.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. This is, it's just a high
Bro,
chance,
are we-
bro. You said it. It must be true.
Bro, it's just I mean, whatever. I mean,
just-
this guy's just. I don't want to like berate this dude because I'm sure they're a lovely person. I don't want to hate on anyone in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. And this video is clearly kind of made with just like, you know, a very hot-headed moment.
What
You
is
know? Because
uploading
I
on-
get those moments sometimes too, where it's just like, I am very angry. Excuse me, sorry. I was drinking a beer. I am very angry. I'm going to now type a fucking storm and most of it's incoherent.
If you play a Floodgate, you want to make sure that it hurts your opponent more than yourself.
But you just argued that the floodgate balanced because it's good against some card and bad against other. You just said that.
Yeah, he kind of did.
But a Floodgate can attempt to level the playing field. Heroes simply need Dark Claw as a first turn play to compensate for their weak turn 1.
Heroes need a floodgate.
All right,
They-
can we stop watching this video?
Bro, heroes need it. They need it.
I feel like I can kind of already tell this video is good, and I don't want to hate on this dude too much.